This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is November 21st. Get pretty close to Thanksgiving, and it is 2021. And today, Sunday, is AMA Day. So things are kind of moving along. You know, certain countries don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's kind of an American holiday, Canadian holiday, October, November. Europe, not so much. Asia, not so much. So development continues. People are chugging away, working hard. Us Americans, we're getting ready for a slow week next week. But things looking pretty good. Daedalus 4.5.1 just came out. And we've started a large program for user experience enhancements to Daedalus. We've collected an enormous amount of feedback. A big priority for a long period of time. We're getting new features out and getting things done correctly. Now, for 2022, a big priority is optimization and performance improvements. So we're going to start looking at everything from memory utilization, sync time, and just things that make the application fast, and start integrating that in. At the same time, there's a parallel track with Mithril. Mithril does two things. One, it allows you to run in a light client mode that is as secure as the full client mode. And then two, it allows for parallel validation of epochs, which means that you can scale to as many processing cores as your computer has. So your constraint is your network and your cores. So that should massively speed things up. A lot of other little optimizations are coming, and it's a very high priority. Floor, our director of engineering, is on it. Roman is on it. John Woods is on it. People care a lot. Script compression is another area that we've been thinking. Plutus templates are another area. So those are on-chain libraries for smart contracts to reference. And we are digging deeply into the read-only UTXO proposals and just trying to figure out where and how to do that while preserving determinism inside the system. So this is kind of the tail of Plutus optimization. So basically every month, new features come, new ideas come, and you have 3 upgrade windows per year, February, June, October for HFC events. And that delivery chain will augment ledger changes there. And meanwhile, software just gets optimized. So you'll have probably 3 to 6 week sprints, releases no more than 12 a year, but more likely about 8 to 9 minor releases to medium releases per year, and then 3 big releases. So that's kind of a time delivery train, and we're moving in that direction. And that's for the core software. And then there's a lot of stuff that's out of band, like interfaces, DB sync, these types of things. So it's really shaping up to be a very systematic software project, and turning it into a full open source project, because all the code is open source, but there needs to be better governance in that respect and collaboration in that respect. It's still somewhat hierarchical amongst the core entities. Is going to be a big emphasis of 2022, and that should accelerate things as well if it's done correctly. So from a development viewpoint, things are looking good. PAB is looking good too. So PAB got integrated, went to testnet. It's being tested now with a lot of launch partners, and they're kind of working with it. There's, of course, a life cycle on that, and infrastructure is being turned on for it. So it was really a November, December thing, and either December, January, it looks like, for mainnet. But it's kind of an iterative process. So, it is what it is. But the thing is that now that it's out, it can be used on both testnet and mainnet. And it's really the dApp developer's level of comfort with that tooling. So this is not like a light switch where you flip it and you say, oh, well, the PAV is available today. No, it's actually a spectrum where you have it. And then as a dApp developer, you make a decision, is this useful to you? Or are you waiting for some functionality with it or something with it for your particular dApp? Or where are you at? But if you're dApp developing, you're saying you're going to deploy first to the test net, and you're going to do that for a few months just to kind of make sure that everything looks good. And that's why it's the test net, and then you can roll it up to the main net. But overall, PAV is looking good. A lot of little things to do here and there, but that's to be expected with new software and infrastructure. Now, plenty of people built without the PAB, like SpaceBuds and others. And actually, we implemented Hydra, the Hydra head protocol in Plutus without the Plutus application backend. So there are certainly ways you can either circumvent it or build without it. depending upon the nature of the application. And PAB is one of those iterative targets where there's new versions all the time, like DB Sync or the Rosetta integration or other things. And those new versions basically add more capabilities or improve issues or speed things up or find more easy ways of integrating stuff and so forth. But it's a very vibrant ecosystem. There's well more than 100 different people wanting to build dApps and get them into Cardano and get business models turned on within a 3 to 6 month time horizon. Really, the February Babbage fork is kind of the cleanup where a lot of things to optimize what they're trying to do will come online then, and then the following in June for that. The problem is that there's enormous amounts of misinformation that exists in the space, just straight up lies and FUD and other things. And every single time we try to tell people how the process is working, people selectively listen and they just pull things out. For example, I just said February and June. Now, saying that, somebody on Twitter, Reddit, Telegram, blogger, YouTuber, somebody will take that out of context and say smart contracts aren't coming till June. They're already here. They're already running. The infrastructure is here. Optimizations are continuous, so they get cheaper, faster, better user experience over time. And new features and functionality come in to augment and enhance dApps. But let's be very clear. It's here. It's running. It's live. Smart contracts are online. We've written some ourselves. You, the community, participated and named the lobster on my microphone in my office because of smart contracts. And people just continue to lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. The other thing is apparently people don't understand how software optimization works. Premature optimization is the root of all evil in software. So you focus on correctness and get your right designs in. And then after you've done that, then you start optimizing. And there's a Pareto principle. A little bit of work gets you dramatic performance improvements. And then there's a long tail, and you have to make a decision of how far do you want to take that tail through. And there are protocols, not science, but existing protocols, meaning that they're already designed by the scientists. We already know they're secure. We're not waiting for a peer-reviewed paper. We're not waiting for a conference. None of these things. They're written down on paper, and they're being debated by engineers about the implementation path for them, like pipelining, for example. And then also input endorsers. So conceptually, the way to think about input endorsers is it achieves the same ends that a lot of these DAG protocols achieve, where you have a heartbeat that kind of serializes things and creates a total order. And then in the meantime, you collect and batch lots of transactions that occur, and you allow some inconsistencies there because when the heart beats, it solves all of those. Just like what you see with IOTA and Phantom, and just like you see with all these other things. We're writing blog posts explaining how that works, and that's something that's being put into the Genesis era. Pipelining will come first because that's a very easy optimization. Now, these two things alone can allow us to get to significantly larger block sizes in the megabyte range, and will get us to 20 to 40x. And these are things that we're going to push like hell to get done in 2022. Alongside all the other stuff like the UTXO HD and Mithril and Hydra and Catalyst and the side chains and so forth. Okay, there are 12 development teams working concurrently, okay, at the same time to deliver an enormous train of features, not sequentially. But yet again, more lies, more fear, more uncertainty, and I'm just getting damn tired of it. I really am. It is incredibly frustrating when you run a professional project that has bi-monthly updates, a mid-month update, and then a month update. You write blog posts on a regular basis. You do AMAs on an almost weekly basis. And you go out there and you show everybody what you're doing. Everything's out in the open. You have GitHub repos. You can see the release tags in the repos. You see the progress week by week by week by week. You see the enormity of the amount of companies and people that are working on this. Like, look at the essential Cardano list. And despite all of that, there seems to be a huge FUD storm and misinformation campaign, not just being conducted by trolls on Twitter, but by venture capitalists, by other projects in the industry, by people who should know better. And it's getting really tiring. It really is. It doesn't slow us down. It actually just pisses us off a little bit, might speed us up a little bit because we're getting a little rough. People have built whole ecosystems around the innovations of just one of our papers, like recursive snarks, for example, in Mina. Effectively, that's what Mithril accomplishes for us. That's one paper out of 125 that we've written. If you look at the Ouroboros agenda and how this thing is pushed out, in all the problems that have been solved, from ledger redux to Chronos and so forth, you'll see terms like fast finality and subjectivity. And so we don't really have to worry about that as an ecosystem. The theory is on bedrock, and we know exactly how to roll things out. Looks like throughput's going to be a high priority for 2022. So go do that. You get fast finality from the side chains and from the Hydra network. Pretty good bundling of features and functionality. So it's a little bizarre. You try not to let it bother you, but it does bother some people in the community, and it creates just so much noise. Now, on the other hand, the collaborations with the dApp developers has been very, very good. We've learned a lot working with talking to people from Meld and Sunday and other things, and they just keep coming to us on a weekly basis, and there's an overwhelming demand there. Progress on the certification program is also looking good. We have 3 certification levels, 1, 2, and 3. We've been working very closely with runtime verification. They're actually working right now on case semantics for Plutus, and we're trying to build a bunch of certification levels and tooling. They call it the Alpha Frontier program. I just posted an article today from Decrypt. They said $10.5 billion, not million, $billion has been stolen or lost to fraud or design flaws as a consequence of poorly written DeFi. Either it has backdoors, or the developers didn't know what they were doing, or there's protocol flaws, or people steal money or game the system. $10.5 billion of value this year alone because of crummy software. That's why certified software is necessary, because right now the financial incentives are move fast and break things. They get the money, you get the bill. Again, move fast and break things. They get the money, you get the bill. That's DeFi of today. Real Fi is about certification. Okay, you get a math proof. You get some artifact that shows you that the protocol is designed correctly. The first example of that is JED. And we've been working real hard to get a reference, kind of like Hyperloop, what Elon Musk did there, so that reference is there for the community and ecosystem to use. And Cody is already hard at work taking this stuff and commercializing it for their own business. But there are going to be others who do that as well. You see, and that's the power of this ecosystem. So there are DEXs. We published a blog post about concurrency with working code, showing how to actually use different design patterns to deploy highly concurrent code with extended UTXO, and more to come, more design patterns to come, more infrastructure to come to further facilitate that. Don't like the extended UTXO model? Milkomedia is here. And it's already starting to accrue interest, and that's coming imminently in the next 60 to 90 days. And I think they're already on the testnet side of things. And that's full EVM interoperability with Cardano. So you have that option. And then there's obviously Mamba. We're right now hard at work writing down all the specifications for the sidechain protocol. And that will be used for Yella, for Catalyst, and it'll be used for EVM, running in OBFT mode. Okay, so that's underway. And there's tons of optimizations that can be done with OBFT to make it incredibly high performance, because ultimately it's a permission system. Your root of trust comes from Ouroboros at the base ledger. That is what we accomplished. That's what's worth $1 trillion with Bitcoin. And we did that better than everybody else. And as the price of ADA goes up, that gets more decentralized. Energy consumption per user goes down. It gets optimized. Opposite dynamics with Bitcoin. With that root of trust, you can bootstrap many permission ledgers that can be used for computation. You read the original Cardano white paper. Remember Paul Halmos? Tell them what you're going to do it, and tell them what you did. Okay, so we told you what we were going to do in 2016. CSL, CCL, Cardano settlement layer, Cardano computation or control layer. So those side chains, those are control layers, computation layers, which can be highly optimized. And because you have a solid root of trust at the base level, it has the same trust model as the base ledger. Okay. And that's what's happening. And we have a great team of people doing that. We know it works because we took all the knowledge that we gained from building a full Ethereum Classic node and we've rolled it on over to Cardano. That entire team got moved over. It's great Scala code. It's very nice. It's getting optimized. A lot of QA has been done, a lot of performance improvements. We're just about to get into the audit side of things. And EVM runs there. If you don't like that, use the Milk Media EVM. Okay. So if you want an accounts model, you want to live in that weird world, go ahead. It's there. And all the Ethereum tooling works there. Just better, faster, and cheaper on Cardano. But again, lots of fear, lots of uncertainty, a lot of disinformation, especially from places I didn't expect to see it. People still saying Cardano is a gambling coin or started as a gambling coin, which is bizarre. I was kind of there in the beginning. It's not. If you see some Japanese website saying, well, there's a reference use case, yeah, 2015, 2016 crypto in Asia, a lot of people wrote websites talking about these things. But it's a general purpose smart contracting stack, which was the unused roadmap that I had from Ethereum, which was 2013, 2014. And had I stayed at Ethereum, it would have looked that way. But I didn't, got pushed out. But okay, let's just lie. Let's just lie. It's what people are doing. And it's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse, you know? But facts are tricky things. And you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. And they are absolutely clear. Every single week, you see it. Every single day, you can see the GitHub repositories. You can see the release cycle. You can see how things are improving. You can see the totality of so many different companies, independent companies working towards this end. You can see a large DApp ecosystem is starting to ferment. And it, of course, takes time for that. It doesn't happen instantaneously. These are businesses too. These are developers too. They're not us. We don't own them. They're an ecosystem, which means they have to grow. They have to build real businesses. And it took about 3 years for this to occur on Ethereum. The fact that within 3 to 6 months, that first wave is coming, financed by Catalyst, ISOs, and other things, bootstrapped by the Cardano ecosystem, is an extraordinary acceleration over what we've seen. Okay, some VCs are saying that no one's pitched them Cardano-related stuff. Well, the C Fund, we've been investing in various things here and there. We've gotten 189% return from our venture capital fund with the money that we've put in. Pretty good. Doing well there. Catalyst has given grants for over 300 projects in 2021. 300. At this current growth of funding, it could be up to 2,000 in 2022. So we're seeing a lot of interest floating around. And a lot of companies are coming. They want to migrate or do something with Cardano, like Possessia, for example. But I guess it just depends on where you look. Or you can ask venture capitalists whose business partners said we're affiliated with organized crime as a credible resource. Or you can ask 20 of your developer friends as a credible resource for these things. So anyway, that's a brief update. The water outside is a little choppy. The water inside the Cardano land actually isn't. We've never been this efficient. We've never been moving this smoothly. And it is what it is. And it is what you make it. As I mentioned in my prior video, we seem to live in a post-truth economy. Facts don't matter. The truth doesn't matter. Opinion and subjectivity is all that matters. Feelings are all that matters. And unfortunately, crypto is at times guided by that. But that's not a permanent state of affairs. I have to believe there'll be a return to objectivity and sanity. And like Highlander, we will be the last man standing. Okay. Let's get to your questions. Why does Cardano have so many, quote, enemies? I really try to understand all the haters, but I honestly can't. Well, it's pretty easy when you look at incentives. Cardano's not a VC coin. There are plenty of VC coins where your usual suspects like Polychain and Andreessen Horowitz and others came in. And if you look at the distributions of these things, a small group of people got fabulously wealthy if the VC coin succeeds. They had layered sales and so forth. Cardano, like Ethereum, it came from different roots, and Bitcoin before it. So you always look to incentives. People making money, and if they're making money, then it kind of explains why they say and do what they do. And also, it's not sexy in certain respects. Boy, who wants to buy peer-reviewed research and work hard, and it takes a while to get something done. Move fast and break things is always fun because you get something in your dopamine economy, every day, every week. It's the latest thing. And of course, you get people like this right here. He comes on in, thinks he's going to get insanely rich, calls me a scammer for what? Because I built a project and it's doing incredibly well, and by every metric, we're looking good. But you're not doing so well because you bought at an inconvenient time. So everything is bad because you have this Shiba Inu coin, Dogecoin mentality. You see, and that's the part of the noise. And so those are the two sides of it. One is bot media and the VC coinitis, and then the other is just the angry fair weather person who has unrealistic expectations. How do we sign up or pay to participate in yearly bison hunt you have on your ranch? Is it open to paying people, just designated people? Paying people. We're completely rebanding and rebuilding the whole thing, and there'll be a website up for it. Usually takes place September to November, so the hunts are nearly done. About 7,500 bison per year. They live an amazing life. They kind of roam around all 11,000 acres, eat the grass. They live like proper bison. The way bison lived 500 years ago. And when they get to right perfect age, that's when people go and hunt them, and then they process them. And you get about 600 pounds to 1,000 pounds of meat. So a few hundred kilograms of meat, and you can get your bison mount and all those other things, or the bison coat if you want to. And it's really a lot of fun. And I tell you, it's the best way to get meat. And it's the tastiest meat you'll ever have. No antibiotics, no vaccines, no hormones, and it's grass-fed. Hi, Charles. I have an ambitious project in mind. I want to make Cardano the backbone of transactions on the site. How do I go about doing this? Where and how can I start? I'd go to Catalyst. So if you Google Cardano Catalyst idea scale, you can find the website. And we're actually hiring some UI UX people to come rebuild that whole experience so that it's a little easier. But basically go in there and submit your idea, and even if you're not really seeking a lot of funding, the fact that you go through that pipeline, you'll learn a lot. And what we're also going to do is create some educational paths. Okay, so two in particular. One is, and they're both free courses, of course, and Catalyst is free to use. But one is, I want to work for Cardano, meaning I want to do something in the Cardano ecosystem. And the point of the course is to kind of walk you through all the different archetypes and roles and things that one can do. It's not just for developers. The other is, I have a business and I want to build something on Cardano, or integrate something in my business, or launch a Cardano dApp. So these are different paths. You're more in the latter than the former, but they're both very valuable. And we're going to make sure that there's some dedicated content there. We did the Prism Pioneers. We did the Plutus Pioneers. We're going to continue doing those pioneer programs. We're also restarting the in-person training for Haskell in Ghana. But it's very important that we continue pushing that MOOC-based education and get people set up. Because all the time people come to me and say, I want to do something Cardano, I don't know what to do. So I'd love to be able to give them a class and say, take this, and by the end of it, you'll know exactly what's for you, and you'll know where to go. But the forums are great. Post your idea there. And Idea Scale is great. Post your idea there, and you might even be able to get some funding for it. Any progress with your biotech company? Yeah, we're making a little bit of progress here and there. Not as fast as I want, but 2022 is going to be the time for it. Just too many things happened this year, so I wasn't able to push too hard. And my dad and brother were doing a few things to close out prior affairs. And unfortunately, that meant that we couldn't make all of the progress we made. But we've certainly had a lot of conversations. We've learned a lot about exosomes and PEMF and photobiomodulation and hyperbaric treatments and all kinds of things about some anti-inflammatory drugs. Read a lot of books, and it's a process. You kind of work your way through it. Not in a huge rush, but it's one of those things that as you invest a lot over time, you get exponential growth. So there we go. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Hi, Charles. What do you think about the Kyle Rittenhouse case? Everybody's just in silence right now. You know, the thing that bothered me the most about this entire case was that I don't understand why he was there. His mother drove him there. Family member drove him there. And like, as a parent or somebody in a position over a child, why would you be like, here's this gun and go to this location with all this stuff going on and best of luck. I mean, that's the place for police and soldiers to go. It's not the place for 17-year-old kids to go. So shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's an interesting case. There's certainly a lot of prosecutorial misconduct there, incompetent prosecutors. The charges were probably too vast for what they were looking for, so they overstepped. And there was a lot of cases where it looked like they were trying to cause a mistrial, so they get another shot at it because they didn't quite get the testimony that they were looking for. And this is the problem when politics gets so deeply ingrained in the judicial system. There's this either underreaction or overreaction, and you never really get any notion of justice. Now, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be like the O.J. Simpson case where he gets acquitted, but then there's a civil case and probably ends up getting sued, and lots of money changes hands as a result. So he's certainly not completely out of hot water, and it's just a human tragedy. Say what you will about the whole event, people died, and the right response from society is to look at the macro and ask fundamental questions. Why did people die? And how did we get here? Instead of the micro and saying that this is somehow an indication of systemic this or systemic that, or just an example of how fundamentally unfair society is, or, he's a hero or any of these things. It's not the right approach. You have to take a step back and say, how did we get here? Why did we get here? And kind of work your way through it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It's, I wasn't there, and the facts and circumstances are quite difficult. And there's a lot of moving pieces to this entire conversation. And vast majority of people who are consuming the narrative, whether it be from the right-wing media or the mainstream media, they just simply don't have the right facts and the right perspective in this matter. It's more of a meta problem of why does society allow these types of things to happen? And there's a lot of blame to go all around, from Kyle himself to his parents to the media to the prosecutor and others. And we just have to move on. And if it's going to be meaningful at all, we have to gain some wisdom as a society in this respect, and hopefully avoid these things from happening again. Or we can just get really angry and just say overreactionary things and believe America is a horrible country, or rah rah, and then we'll just keep digging deeper, and more and more of these incidents will happen, and less justice will occur. How do you make NFTs private so only token holders get access to its content? So NFTs can be made private using zero knowledge crypto. So there's a naive way to do it, the Wu-Tang Gang way, where you have a private album or a private thing and you privately share it with people. You can store the IP in a trusted enclave that can only be accessed in a certain way, or it can use some sort of clever MPC or zero knowledge stuff. And that's kind of the next generation of NFTs. So that'll come in the next 24 months, I think. Looking back at your Bermuda TED Talk, what was your proudest moment since then? I'd say the launch of Shelley. That was just a huge burden finally lifted. It was like so many pieces had to come together for Shelley. And also the launch of Goguen and the recent summit that we had was another huge highlight. I'm building a metaverse. When is mainnet out? It's out. It's out. This is what I'm talking about. So many lies get told that people actually believe Cardano is not in a mainnet, does not have smart contracts. You can build today, and deploy today, not a year from now, today to Cardano. We tell you to use the test net because you're using fake ADA and you can fuck things up and write it the wrong way. And then you can fix it. If you're using the main net, it's real money. And if you screw something up, that's on you and your users. It's another common misconception. Why does Michael Novogratz hate Cardano? I don't think he hates Cardano. I don't think he hates anything in this space. Guy is talking its book. When you're a billionaire and you've made bets, bet, you're going to talk your book and you're going to do those bets. And things are outside your scope. That is what it is. If he had bought ADA, he'd be saying we're the greatest thing ever. I talked to 20 brilliant people. And they all tell me Cardano is the best thing ever. So people talk their book. So it tells you a lot who criticizes you. Look at the criticism Bitcoin is getting right now. Hillary Clinton is coming out, and all these swamp creatures are coming out. Bitcoin is bad. It's destabilizing the U.S. economy. It's this terrible thing. The people who love the legacy system and control and are creatures of the swamp are saying cryptocurrencies are a threat. Why? Because you get to be your own bank. You get an deflationary monetary instead of an inflationary monetary policy. You don't get to print 40% of all the money in circulation in the last 18 months. You see, so people talk their book. The political class has a book. The banking class has a book. The VC class has a book, and so forth. And it is what it is. And so don't put undue emotions or feelings in this respect. Things change in 24, 36 months. If we pull off all the stuff we say we're going to pull off, you'll probably be our biggest fan and say, oh, well, that was the past, and you welcome them with open arms because they're mercenaries in that respect. Charles, what are your thoughts on Rollups, ZK, Syncs, Starkware-like solutions, Cardano? Can Hydra and Rollups go hand in hand? You said Rollups will be big in 5 to 10 years, but it's already here. Well, they are and they aren't. They are for certain classes of problems and use cases, but they're getting better year by year. And when I say big in 5 to 10, meaning I say every system has some notion of that. I think it'd be easier to do Rollups in extended UTXO style model than it would be in an account style model. And the thing is, we'll get rollups for free with Mamba. So when the EVM sidechain comes, those rollup infrastructures can and will be rolled over as a scalability solution for the EVM sidechain. Now, the question is, do we need rollups on the main chain? I think as a continuation of the Mithril research stream, probably something that can be done. And actually, I suspect several DEXs are going to move in that particular direction. So it's definitely something there. It's a buy instead of build because there's already a lot of great solutions. And it's important to understand they're L2. So they're somewhat agnostic, and we'll get them on the Ethereum side first, but certainly it's going to be fun to port some of those to the extended UTXO model. And we have a lot of ZK infrastructure we've designed, like Sonics, for example. And we've seen a lot of great progress with Plonk, and there's a lot of next generation ZK stuff that's coming online. Now, Starkware made some interesting design choices, which were future-proof from a prescient viewpoint. I think they use some hash-based crypto, so they're post-quantum. But they're not quite as efficient as the classical stuff that's there. But it's a fast-growing field, and we're pragmatic as anybody else. And that actually is a great venture for somebody wanting to do something on Cardano. Catalyst funds will be made available, and I suspect there's probably going to be a roll-up round that occurs, or a ZK round that occurs, and we'll see a whole wave of ZK companies come in. I think we're actually one of the best positioned of the ventures in the crypto space to pursue this because we have the closest connection to academia and to contractors that implement cryptographic algorithms. For example, Galwa is the entity that's implementing Mithril at the moment, and they're incredible at cryptographic engineering. They're a very, very smart company. It would not be hard to extend that contract to say, hey, let's go do some roll-up stuff and so forth. So 5 to 10 for the really good stuff, but you're absolutely right. There are intermediate solutions that exist, and they'll percolate their way in. How is privacy on Cardano? So one area I really think would be cool to improve is introducing proxy keys. So it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and we're having discussions on the best way to do it, but a separation of the cold and hot infrastructure. So the basic idea is you can have 3 keychains: spending key, voting key, and staking key. There's a kind of a primary secondary. So the primary would be the spending, and the secondary would be the staking and delegation, the staking and voting keys, excuse me. And you could either directly delegate with them, or what you can do is you can create a new keychain that's just a staking key and a voting key, and we can call those proxy keys. And the idea is that you would sign a transaction that would enable those keys to act on behalf of the original keychain. Now, the advantage here is that the proxy keys could live on the hot wallet, so Daedalus, Yoroi, and so forth, and then your main keychain could be on your cold infrastructure, a paper wallet, hardware wallet. That's kind of the naive way of doing things. But that connection between the proxy keys and the main keychain, you may be able to use a snark in that connection. And if that's the case, then what would happen is that privacy only goes in one direction. I should say transparency only goes in one direction. So the proxy keys to the main keychain, you wouldn't be able to connect them. So that's a private system, private delegation, private voting. But then on the main chain, you can see in the other direction transparent. So you can identify the proxy keys. So your wallet would show you your preferences, but the other way it's confidential. So I think that's probably the best way of introducing something. And then actually that primitive could be reused for transactional privacy as well. But there are more regulatory questions that we'd have to think carefully about. And probably metadata would be enough to get it there with encrypted DIDs or something like that. But yeah, that's definitely something we're looking into. It'll have to come a little later down the roadmap. So second half of 2022, likely, because there's so much to do in the first 2 major releases. But it's definitely something that we're looking for a protocol for that makes sense. The other problem with these things is that they tend to introduce a lot of bloat to the system, and that's not where you'd want to be. So we have to be very careful. And true to form, this is actually the question I was addressing earlier. What can the average person who doesn't understand programming do to help Cardano succeed? That's why that class needs to exist. Okay. And this is the wrong thinking. Hydra release date. You see, everybody's just looking for this, like, this date, boom, it's done, it's over. It gets released iteratively. You have the head, and then you need routing and head and tail and this and that and this, and you gradually iterate and you run it first on the test net. Transactions are going through it, stuff is happening. And then after you've done that, people start building dApps connected to it, and then you just gradually see it roll out. That's how you do these things. But this guy wants this date, this date. It's not how it works. It's not how it works for any of this. Yeah, this is another example. Clown, where is the Dex, Charles? Talk to Sunday, talk to Mel, talk to all these guys. There's like 12 of them that are currently building. We're 4 months into smart contracts. Let's count that. September and okay, October, November. Did I count that wrong? Did I count it wrong? Exactly. Did I? I don't know how to count. But all you do is sign useless MOUs. So building relationships with heads of state, nation states that control tens of millions of people and can bring in billions of transactions a month to our system is a bad deal. Oh, okay, I guess that's not my job. And do AMAs, so communicating with my community is a bad deal. Oh, okay. And cherry pick questions. Well, I took your question, clown again, and other devs do 100-hour work weeks. So you want the CEO of the company to do 100-hour work weeks doing what exactly? Programming? We are number one for GitHub commits usually on for development. So tons of code is being written on a daily basis. But maybe we should write more code. Okay. Hey, we could be part of the $10.5 billion club of money that was lost or stolen. How about we do that? Or let's just abandon all of our principles, right? So we just release shit, hope it works. Who knows? Okay. Or we just do a Tron. Let's just fork stuff, take other people's stuff, right? So we could be fast to market, right? More clowns. Yeah. It's the mindset, you know. Oski. Charles Jordan Peterson has been having conversations on his podcast regarding the philosophical nature of crypto. Important for you to discuss the philosophy of crypto with him. He'd love your vision. I think so. It'd be a lot of fun. And next year we'll try to get on Jordan's podcast. And that's one you got to prepare for. I got to reread Maps of Meaning and like eat my Wheaties. That Joe Rogan, the Jordan Rogan sandwich is going to be a lot of fun. What happened to the third hard fork that was going to be this year? So we actually had one. It was in October. We had Mary in May. We did the September hard fork, and then we have a very small hard fork in October. So there were three. But what happened is we took some of the things that were slated for November and we decided to roll them into the February so that we could a larger release and do time-based releases. It was just too much on the exchanges and other people to do back to back to back hard forks, and also people need a little bit of time off between them. So the third hard fork happened, but it was smaller than expected, and that means the February hard fork will be larger than anticipated to roll up all the stuff that was slated for November. What's your favorite Pink Floyd song? Wish You Were Here. Hey, Charles, thoughts on Raul Paul? He seems to fail to list Cardano as a credible crypto. I think he actually owns ADA, and I don't think he's ever said we're not credible, and I've met him, and I've been on Real Vision and so forth. It's just there's so many of these projects out there, and it's dogs are going crazy. Are we living in a simulation? Yeah, I think we might be. Yeah, I used to say no, but now I'm more on the other side. Mm-hmm. Okay, lots of dog barking. Where did the name Cardano come from? It came from Girolamo Cardano. He was an Italian mathematician. Okay. What do you feed your dogs? The bones of my enemies. Charles, Vim versus NeoVim. I'm a Vim user. Sorry, guys. No Emacs for me. Although if I start doing some racket programming, you kind of have to live in the Emacs world because that's like where Lisp lives. Charles, do you keep in contact with Stormex crew at all? I read you were helping them a few years back. Yeah, I was an unpaid advisor years ago. I never took anything for it. And I like the kids there. And in particular, REU, she was there at the time. And she's a good friend and she's very nice. But I haven't talked to them in years. Can smart contracts replace the role of lawyers? No. What they do is they give you a better way of debugging and testing legal arrangements and separating wet from dry code. I encourage you to read Nick Szabo's thoughts on the matter. King of the Rats meaning. That actually comes from Adam Back, called as King of the Rats. Ada, a queen, 300 AD-ish. Well, maybe, but it's actually Ada Lovelace is the name for Ada. She was a countess from the 19th century. How were your talks in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa? Are they willing to use Cardano for anything? Actually, I was going to meet with Cyril, and I was at his house up in down in Cape Town, and I spent time with his son Tumelo Ramaphosa. But Cyril had a scheduling issue, so he couldn't make it to dinner. But we did have a great talk, Tumelo and I, and they were specifically about blockchain-based education in the Democratic Republic of Congo, so the DRC, and also in South Africa. So we're going to loop in what we're doing in Ghana into a more Pan-African setup and work with an educational venture in South Africa that also is sourcing in DRC. So that was the nature of that particular conversation. South Africa was more for larger companies there, like ShopRite and the exchanges and Opera and so forth. Why do you have a royal family photo on your Twitter profile? I tell people this story from time to time, and as new people come in, they don't know it. So I'll tell it again real briefly. So there's this concept called the social sinkhole. And so if you look at sinkholes, they don't form from the top down, they form from the bottom up. And then what happens is, as you're driving down the road, if you're unlucky, you fall into a sinkhole. Now, thousands of cars every day will be going across that sinkhole, not realizing they're driving over it. So everything from the outside looks totally normal. And until that one day when you're unlucky and you just happen to be heavy enough and it happened to be weak enough, and then boom, this big pit materializes. Societies are the same way. So for a long time, you think the government's okay, social structures are fine, institutions are running, everything is business as normal. Then suddenly it all falls apart. And you look back and say, how did this happen? How did we not notice that? So if you look at Europe in the 19th century, mostly led by kings. And that picture is a great example of that. That was the funeral of a British monarch who died right at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, I think around 1910. And all those people controlled like a quarter of the world's resources and had the largest militaries, were basically really powerful people. Within 10 years, at the end of World War I, those people, most of them had been depowered, some killed, some deplatformed. So in that picture, people look at that and they say, they control the world. That's that institution. But meanwhile, there's a social sinkhole that's happening and everything falls to hell. And then suddenly 10 years later, none of those people really have as much relevance as they used to. They're just gone. And that's the point of the picture, is how quickly things can change, and how quickly society can change. And so we look at the dollar; it's absolutely supreme, and 40% of the dollars in circulation have been brought into circulation the last 2 years. So we think the dollar is strong and powerful. The U.S. government is strong and powerful. They keep making decisions like this. That's accelerating the sinkhole. You keep driving down that road, but at some point something will happen, another 2008, and then boom, we all fall in it. And you can put that flag in the background too if they keep doing what they're doing. Mr. Hoskinson, I'm a German mathematician. Well, good to meet you, Hoss. And holder since 2018. I'm a fan of single Scotch malt whiskey. Please tell me about the taste of your 38-year-old whiskey. Greetings. It was a Gordon McFall that was a gift for the launch of Gogan, and it was really, really good. Although I still prefer a 21-year-old Hibiki. And what field of mathematics are you in, Peter? Are you working with the U.S. government? No, we currently do not have a relationship with the U.S. government, U.S. federal government. Hi, Charles. Staking seems too good to be true. Yeah, welcome to inflation. You're starting to get it. U.S. government does this. You see, it's inflation for the people, not inflation for the bankers. Why did Daniel Friedman move to Ergo? He didn't move to Ergo. He took an advisor role at Ergo, but he's still my employee. I should know because I cut the paychecks. uh, Looking good, Charles. Wow, thank you so much. Got to clean up the beard a little bit, but I feel good. I feel good. Yeah, yeah, we're getting there. Are you and Vitalik good friends? I wouldn't say that. I don't have any ill will or animosity. Crypto media seems to really love building up this competition. But to be honest, I don't think he thinks much about me or of me. And I tend not to think about him very much, although I do praise him from time to time. And it's one way in that respect. And crypto media has really made him a big guy, built him up, and rightfully so. Built a $500 billion ecosystem, and Ethereum has a great brand and a great ecosystem and so forth. Can extended UTXO live with the account model? They are isomorphic to each other, and they can definitely live together. We wrote a paper called Chimeric Ledgers that explains that. I think that they're complementary in a certain respect. What an odd question. Cat girl? Arsenal Generation 4 PAB. What's your greatest fear? Come on now, give me something interesting. Are there any JavaScript libraries being developed in order to query the Cardano blockchain easily from the front end? Yeah, there's some work that's being done in that respect. And I remember Blockfrost, and there's about a dozen other things that are floating around. Some are in that area. Some are written in Rust because it's faster. But it's definitely something we're looking into. And I've been talking to the foundation about improving the JavaScript side of the world. And I recommended writing a bunch of infrastructure in TypeScript, something I think is important. There's always this Haskell to JS, JCJS, and Haskell to WebAssembly, and that's just not where we're not where we need to be with that. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. Have you watched the new Dune? No, I have not, and I want to. Try to find that question. There was a good one that I wanted to bring up. Let's see here. RuneScape. That's an oldie but a goodie. Bison Hunt, Starlink, Local Bank, Ergodex. Wingsuit Tunnel. Come on, guys. Let's see here. Metaverse. Startup ideas. Transaction. Academic publishing. Nothing really sexy here. Hosky Coin. Frank. Let's see here. Is Adelaide a good wallet? Best eating: chicken, pork, lamb, bison, beef, or deer. Well, I'm a bison rancher, sir, so obviously bison. Thoughts on Hosky Coin? I don't know much about it. I hear they want to give me some, but I've talked to the team. I don't know anything about it. One of these days I'll pay attention to it. I just haven't had the time, and I've been pretty busy. But it's nice that the community's doing stuff. But again, I don't know anything about Hosky Coin, and I'm glad that there's lots of things going on. Can you speak to the cult leader epithet that you've been given and how to manage the responsibility of your influence? Paul Halmo's method. Tell them what you're going to do it, and tell them what you did, and then you're done and move on. So focus on decentralization, focus on independence, focus on balance of power, and recognize wherever there's choke points or areas of centralization. Get rid of them. They say cult leader, I guess, because I'm charismatic. And the reality is that if you live in a world where Cardano's a scam, it's accomplished nothing, and Cardano has no value, you have to then explain why Cardano has value in a community. So the only explanation they can give is that I'm some sort of sociopathic, pathological lying cult leader who's having everybody drink some sort of digital Kool-Aid for this. Now, look at where the real value comes from: the code, the community, the projects, the papers. That's like the endeavors of thousands of hardworking people, now 2 million in the ecosystem over a 6-year period. But apparently, the critics want to live in this weird reality where a contradiction is true. I'm incompetent, have no technical skills, can't do anything, and I'm not even that smart, not even an academic, according to Molten Tar Monster, all these things. And yet at the same time, I'm hyper charismatic and can mislead the world's top experts to put their brand and reputation and time, their precious time, for the last 6 years, into something that doesn't exist. So I'm hyper competent and hyper incompetent, and therefore cult leader. It would be offensive if it wasn't so laughable, if it wasn't so crazy, and just so out there. We built this whole movement on inclusive accountability, your ability to verify truth yourself. Don't trust us, trust the process and the system. Peer review, for example. I tell you who's a cult leader: anybody who says, buy now, and if you don't buy now, you're going to lose out. I'll tell you who's a cult leader: anybody who says, just trust me, we have the most brilliant people. Don't read the papers. Don't have any verification. We don't even need to show you our code. We don't need to show you anything, but just trust us. It's all going to work out. I'll tell you the cult leader: people say we should stay in power forever, and there should be no system in place to create decentralization and community level control. We don't need independent funding sources for the progress of the system. Just trust our foundation and we'll be here forever. That's cult. It's pretty culty. Or people who say there can never be any innovation. Only our protocol is the path to truth. Everything else is a scam and bad. Apparently, the people who say think for yourself, keep an open mind, learn critical thinking skills, those are the bad people, according to the people who have this epithet. So, it is what it is. I'm just a guy. I build stuff. I love my company. I love the people I work with. And we tell everybody what we're going to do. We do it. That's what we're doing right now. And after it's done, we'll write a book about it and say what we did. And if it works, it'll have hundreds of millions of users and it'll speak for itself. And I'll never get an apology, because it's just who these people are. Oh, that was a good question. Mathematically based games. Let me find that. Actually, I like that question. All right. Have you ever considered going vegan? Well, I did consider going. Well, veganism's insanity. It's like you can't even eat milk and cheese. Well, what if I milk the cow myself? And I pet the cow every day, and the cow's a happy cow. No, it's still animal abuse. It's like, okay, vegetarianism, it's not so bad. I think it might be fun to do that for 6 months to a year. With drinking, I do a year on, year off. So this is a wet year. Next year is a dry year. I might do the same for meat, do a vegetarian year and do a non-vegetable year and see how I feel. I've had some health issues here and there, and I kind of work my way through them, and I'm getting better, working out every day. But you know what? It's a process. Do you have a favorite programming language? I like three languages in particular. I really enjoy JavaScript. I like Python, and I like Haskell. They all do very different things. If you're doing scientific computing, Python is just unparalleled, and especially with all the R integrations, NumPy and R, and just all of that's great. So if you're a data scientist, these are your meat and potatoes. Your Sage plus your R, great. JavaScript is the lingua franca of the web, and it's just a way of thinking about how to interact with the web, which is very productive. And then Haskell is really just mathematics made into code. It's this pureness about it that is just so beautiful. And it's becoming actually useful because of all the work we've done with Cardano. Actually show you can write real applications. God, it was hard, but now that we've done it, we've trailblazed, and the road looks a lot better. Hey, Charles, what's the meaning of life? Take a look at my answer to that question on the Lex Friedman podcast. All right, let's see here. Been watching your AMAs now for 4 years now. Love them all. Oh, thank you so much. That's really cool. Logan, the lobster. He's back at the office. Logan, the lobster. Do. Are those masks on the wall from all the orgies you've been to? I'm going to have to ask your mom about that. She keeps track of that. Does quantum computing threaten cryptographic security? I don't believe so. There's a question here. Why number theory? Apparently the questions come so quickly that right when I'm just about to click one, I lose it. So I'll have to set some sort of slow mode up. Organization, the industry. How are you planning to handle damage mitigation and the inevitable onslaught of regulation? We're already prepared for it with DIDs and metadata and the way that we've built a very decentralized model and decentralized fundraising. Cardano has really been constructed in a way that regardless of whatever the regulatory regime is, we are, in my view, the best prepared cryptocurrency to handle that, especially in the DeFi space. DeFi is what's going to get hammered. You guys, a lot of these things like DEXs and so forth basically are a regulated financial vehicle. And the only reason that they're not regulated at the moment is the regulator hasn't quite figured out how they want to apply regulation, but it's one of those follow the money type of deals. They'll just start throwing regulation at whoever made the most money and see if it sticks or not. And they probably can get away with it. So there needs to be a completely different mindset about how you handle that reality for DeFi. And we have all these beautiful tools that we've constructed with Prism and the metadata standard and the governance system of Cardano. Like, for example, in Ethereum land, every single DeFi has to figure out how to become a DAO. Once we solve the whole DAOification of Cardano with Catalyst, because of the native multi-asset standard, every single application on Cardano can leverage Catalyst as governance as a service for their community with that same level of decentralization. That's just one of dozens of things that we thought about over the last 6 years and talked about and said, boy, this is coming and so forth. We thought about all of this. Our competitors, they're sitting here just like, oh God, what do we do about it? Oh no. And we're just like, oh yeah, we know exactly what to do. We're building our way towards that. It's already happening in parallel with all the other things. So I don't worry about it at all. I really don't. I think it's, it's a minor thing for us, huge thing for them. But don't worry, network effect. Network effect. Move fast and break things. They get the money, you get the bill. Hey, Charles, you have a tractor? I do. Got a Massey Ferguson. Got some John Deeres. Got a few things. Is IOHK struggling to find good employees? We see so many open positions. No, not at all. We're just growing by leaps and bounds. We're probably going to hire 200 to 300 more people. We're not losing people. We're adding. We might even be at 800 employees, 900 employees. Just there's so much stuff going on. What is that you're drinking? Coffee. Hot, strong, and black. Are you in touch with Gavin Wood? Not really. Every now and then we talk to each other over email, but not really. How does IOHK earn money? It's very simple. People come to us, we sell services, and we make time and materials, some cases equity or other things, from performing development services, transformational services, these types of things. We have product lines like Prism, where we have enterprise stuff we build for it. We have a per user subscription fee we charge. Guess what? We're profitable. We make more than we spend. Go figure. And we're growing like crazy. IOHK to IOG, yes. Input Output Global is the parent company of IOHK. Do you still actively work on Cardano's code base? No, I never have. I've always been in an architecture and business requirement and product owner role in that respect. So we say these are the things that we need, but being a distributed systems engineer is its own domain. You have 15, 20 years of experience, PhD. It's like a big deal. It's like, think of it like you have a primary care physician and you're responsible for the overall health of the patient. And then there's something wrong with a particular organ, like they have a liver problem. So you send them to a specialist and they go to a hepatologist or a surgeon and they take care of it. That's kind of the same with me. So I sit at the coordinating role and I talk about the overall stuff. And then you have subspecialties, cryptographers and distributed systems people and top software engineers, and they do their stuff. Dear Charles, question about the pond versus the ocean. There's also the island, by the way. If you allow programmers to write smart contracts and stuff other than Haskell, don't you lose the benefits of Haskell? Yes, you lose it for that smart contract in that computing model, which is why sidechains is so important, because you can bulkhead sidechains in a way where they don't cascade and create problems for the main network. But that's very astute, which is why you have different computing models. And for high assurance software, you do that in the good languages. Trying to click, and it's just so fast. How exactly are sidechains that allow programming smart contracts in imperative languages compatible with Plutus Core? They're aggregated, they're separated systems. That's the power of sidechains. And that was the point of the original architecture of Cardano, which other people with Polkadot and Parachains and Eth2 have been chasing. We were first to market to publish this model. You say you have a settlement layer, which is your root of trust of the system, and that's built with a certified core, so you know it works really, really well. And then you have sidechain protocol that allows you to move information and value between these sidechains, and you use the root of trust at the base level to bootstrap high performance permission sidechains. And those sidechains run different computing models. They can run account space with EVM, or they could be a Plutus with extended UTXO, but a much faster consensus model. You can do anything you want with sidechains. And what happens is that you interact kind of like through an API, kind of like through REST. Kind of you just query, you talk from one chain to the other chain, and you can pull state and information from one system to the other system, but you don't have to know how that system's implemented. It's a black box in that respect. That's the power and why this model is so scalable, because you can just launch as many of these things as you want, and it's just the carrying capacity of the system. Okay, and here's a great question. Charles, is there some sort of incentive program for people wishing to contribute to the ecosystem, improving documentation, writing JavaScript SDKs? There are two funding sources, Cardano Foundation and Catalyst. Catalyst has over $1 billion. The foundation has over $1 billion of value. So there's definitely incentive systems. And IO, we're saturated. We're spending tens of millions of dollars fielding a small army of people on our side to build out core infrastructure, but then all the surrounding infrastructure, the foundation has to carry its weight, and Catalyst has already been putting money out for things like Block Frost and so forth. And that's going to continue and get more aggressive next year. But come January, I'm going to Zurich. We're going to sit down with the foundation. We're going to have a real conversation about Cardano, the open source project, and things like bug bounties and these incentives and infrastructure. Now, you better believe we're going to get very aggressive about making sure that that $1 billion gets spent so that it gets into the ecosystem. That's the community's money. Okay, foundations for you. They have that money, and they better spend it for you guys. And every month, we'll get louder, community get louder. There's a completely independent board. There's an independent executive. They've approved a $25 million budget for fiscal year 2022. It's time to go. It's time to start moving. We're carrying our weight. It's not a funding problem, by the way. It's like the money is there. It's just a leadership and execution and capacity. And that's a very important thing. Testing, testing. Okay, I think the mic is on. Okay. Hey, Charles, I want to integrate mental health maintenance on the Cardano blockchain. How can my Cambridge research team get to you for a meeting? Well, Igor, you don't have to talk to me to do something. Again, use Catalyst and IdeaScale. This is the best place. There's over 50,000 people that are there to analyze and to mentor and to discuss and debate and get funding to help you get where you need to go. I'm worried about infrastructure, like getting Hydra where it needs to be and the PAB where it needs to be and getting us through the next few HFC events and making sure the open source project builds out and so forth. That said, I do care about mental health, especially how can we find clever ways to incentivize certain things. And one of the areas that I've actually been looking at is how do you use brain-computer interfaces with trusted hardware and a proof of human protocol that Hong Sheng came up with to actually create an incentive for people to practice mindfulness meditation. And actually, I'm meeting with several BCI vendors. For example, I think on Monday, I'm meeting with the kernel people. And this is one of the things that will invariably come up. There's just so much amazing BCI technology, and being able to create incentives for people to get into a flow state or into a mindfulness state is a really powerful thing. And that'd be a really cool layer 2 protocol to put onto Cardano. We call it Tranquil or something like that. Are other cryptos stealing Cardano's work accomplished through peer-reviewed papers? You cannot steal a peer-reviewed paper. As long as you cite it and you give attribution to it, you can't steal it. That's the point of open source, and that's the point of these publications. They want to go and implement all the power to them, and it actually helps us. We learn from that implementation. Yeah, that would be so cool. Yeah, and actually, basically, you have a token model where when you meditate, it's like mining, but it's mining with your mind. It's pretty cool stuff. These are the kinds of things that you can do when you have the right protocols. And so, in practice, the user experience would be that you would have a device with a unique hardware ID and trusted hardware connected to a brain-computer interface that's network enabled. Your first step would be doing a puzzle, which would prove that you are a human being and associate that with the DID of the hardware device for a time period, like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. And then you would synchronize, and then you would play a puzzle, and there would be probably a 2-part game where there would be some agent monitoring the puzzle, and then some agent solving the puzzle, and it's meditation that does that. And then going through that whole process, that interactive protocol will allow you to generate some sort of commitment. And then that commitment would get put onto the Cardano blockchain, so probably a hash of some information. And then what would occur is over a period of time, maybe a few hours or something, there would be an unveiling. And then one of the commitments would be lucky and win that round and get some tokens for that. So it's it's your mining with your mind, and you can kind of join a mining pool, a mind pool, a scion pool. That's a pretty cool name, and that would basically be the how you'd handle reward variance. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it'd be a really cool, fun protocol to implement, and we could easily put it on Cardano. All the mechanics are already there, so Cardano is 100% ready for such a protocol to run on it. And then there's a question of, well, what do you want to solve with these blocks or these types of things? And it's an interesting question. Dear Charles, ribeye versus sirloin. You got to ask. Come on, ribeye, son. Ribeye. Like that fat. Medium rare, too. You get that anything over medium and kick your ass. All right. So let's go ahead and share my screen real quick. Something I want to show you guys. So we used to do the whole Kiva thing. And I really like Kiva. I really enjoy it. But actually, if you take a look at Possessia, this is one of the partners that we've been building with. And so we're building a lot of infrastructure out with Possessia, and we're going to do a blockchain-based reputation system. And we're going to A/B test the NPL rate, the non-performing loan rate, with Possessias on the new system. And hopefully we're actually going to be able to build out an entire microfinance marketplace. They work with a lot of different ventures. They're based in Kenya, and they're starting to scale up. And they're led by a really amazing team. So this right here is Hilda, and she's just a really smart gal. She was a computer scientist and got offered a job at Google, but decided to go to work for Coca-Cola in Kenya instead. And then she did that for a while, and then got into the microfinance businesses and been in the microfinance business for a long time. And she's learned a huge amount. I think she has a phenomenal product. So this is kind of our entry point into there we go. Our entry point into the space, the MFI space, and we'll be able to, I think, build a whole peer-to-peer lending marketplace with them. And it can be an integration that's coming into the Light Wallet that we're building and deploying next year. So that's an example of the DApp ecosystem and marketplace. You know, you build this great infrastructure. You can open up the modules and just decide what you want. You click your DEX and that comes in there. You click your peer-to-peer lending marketplace, that comes in there. All those things are being designed. And we have some great UI UX firms we're working with to kind of figure out how to do these things. The instruments you'd lend would be things, for example, like JED, because it's a stable coin. And there's actually already in Kenya great infrastructure to convert crypto for less than 1% fees. So you can do stable coins, fast conversion, really fast lending. And the terms of these loans are usually monthly, about 3% per month, which seems high, but it's actually half or a third of the price of conventional microfinance in Kenya. So that is a good example of innovation. And in 2022, we're working our way towards that. Kiva kind of showed the power of these models, and now we can move in that direction. And unlike Kiva, you can actually get a return on these things. So it's really cool to see that people are moving in that direction. And Possessia in particular is one of my favorite ventures. And I just really like the CEO, and I like the team, and I like their outlook, and I just like the innovation that they've done. And they have a continental view. They want to really be Pan-Africa and get everywhere. All right, we'll clip it there. Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun, as always. And I'll see you next week.